Hello, hello. All right. I'm just going to make sure that I'm on here. So, this is going to be a fun one, but a quick one, but an important one. I don't see myself yet. So, if you see me, send me a message and say all is good. Okay. This live stuff is just pretty awesome. Thank you for being on. If you were on yesterday, it was a great response. It was, actually Sunday night. Great response to that one. If you haven't checked it out, it's probably one of the most important topics that I've done. It just, where does it make sense, dollars and cents, for the orthotic and prosthetic market and 3D printing? So, just FYI, I'm Brent with Advanced 3D. We're a contract manufacturer, but really our goal is to see people 3D printing in all walks of life, but specifically really adopting it into the orthotic and prosthetic industry. And today we're going to talk about something interesting. So, the powder bed fusion companies, started off with PA12, and then it's PA12 glass filled, and it's a great material. In fact, we have plenty of patients out there and and successful in them. Now, one of the interesting things to note is that as time has gone on, there there have been some situations where there are failures in a socket for whatever reason, and instead of making changes around the design, which can be done, people have looked at other materials such as a PA11. And so you can actually get around poor design by using a different material such as PA11 that is a little bit more forgiving. So this isn't a good or bad on the materials, but it's just, hey, let's just have a discussion around PA11 and 12. And so with PA12, like I said, there's a lot of people out there on prostheses successful. I've seen some patients come in with devices 3, 4, 5 years old down the line. So literally millions and millions of cycles on these prostheses. And so that's important to note, is that PA12 is absolutely a material that can be used as a definitive device in the prosthetic field. Now, one of the knocks against PA12, it is that it's a petroleum derived product. Well, what does that mean? I don't know all the ins and outs. I'm not a chemist, but the petroleum industry, not people think of fuel, but the petroleum industry is just so much more than that, because there's so many byproducts that happen when they're processing the petroleum oil for different things. So the reality is that PA12 is a byproduct that is created from oil, but it's not keeping us from getting fuel and that sort of thing. It's a byproduct of that, along with a myriad of other things. So the idea that the PA12 is worse for our earth or whatever is, I would say, a little bit far-fetched, in the sense that the petroleum, the oil, is already going to be refined. It's the material that's already going to be used. Let's use all of it. And so what I liken that to is like a hunter. A true hunter goes out and they go get an animal, not only for the meat, but they use the whole thing, bones, the carcass, everything. And so at that point, it's a net zero. And the same thing happens in the oil space. Yes, there's a lot of bad things that can happen with oil spills and that sort of thing. But if you think about it from the hunter perspective, and every part of that is used, I don't think that's a terrible thing. So this idea that we need to look at something else. I would say is far fetched. So let's talk about PA11. PA11 is in the same family as nylons, and it's from a bean. So the idea is that it's more sustainable. And I love PA11. I think it's a great material. It's a great material for orthotics and prosthetics. It gives you some added flexibility, and so if something there's an impact or what have you, it will deform and not break, um, or break catastrophically. But I think that there's a narrative behind the PA11 that we need to also think about, is that PA11 does cost more, typically anywhere between 20 and 30% more premium on a PA11. And then this idea of sustainability is an interesting one. And while, yes, you can grow more beans, the reality is PA11 is a very, very fine particle. And if you ask anybody that's a contract manufacturer or does this stuff for a living, they will tell you that running PA11 is a nightmare. Um, and while there's a ton of properties there, it's just super hard on the machines. The particles get everywhere. So, like on an SLS machine, it gets all through the gantry. It's hard to clean. It gets into every which way. It's just very hard to clean, and it just wears parts out much, much quicker. And so, like, if you have to replace a part that is not recyclable or sustainable, then does it really even out? And I think that's a real discussion that we have to have. And I can also say, like, on a so we talked about SLS on the multi-jet fusion side of things, the particles, you get amazing resolution with PA11, better than the PA12. The particles are smaller, but you will go through print heads like nobody's business. And these print heads are not recyclable. They're not a consumable. They're not sustainable. And so, yes, you might be using a sustainable material, but you're literally tearing up your machine when you're running it. So, is the juice worth the squeeze? In my case, when I'm looking for an added safety factor for the prosthetic side of things, currently my go-to is PA11, but I'm not going to run that in-house. I'm going to let somebody else run that in-house, and let them take the wear and tear on the machines. But you're going to see that in the price of the product itself. So you're going to notice that the PA11 is more expensive than the PA12, because of not only the price of material, but because it's harder on the machines. And so I think it's not a bashing of either material. It's, let's have a realistic discussion. When we're talking about PA11, okay, yes, it comes from a bean, but it also is super hard on machines, and you are having to replace parts more frequently. So this idea of sustainability is more far-fetched, I would say. It doesn't tell the whole story. But I love the material, and I will always outsource it. The PA11. I don't think I'll be bringing that in-house anytime soon. But I think it's important to have the discussion. PA11, yes, well, on paper it looks sustainable. It's really hard on machines. It's harder to run. There is a lot of upside, but when you compare it to PA12, yes, it's a petroleum product, oil, but you're using all of the oil. It's just a byproduct of it. So I don't think it's a great comparison. I see you, Ben. Uh, we'll have to have a conversation of why you didn't like the PA11. Um, it's actually, I was, well, I have a couple patients that prefer the feel of PA12 compared to PA11. And PA11 just isn't as stiff, and so you've got to go potentially a little bit heavier, or more, build up more to get the uh, parts feeling like the PA12. Oh, if you say it was too brittle, most likely it was whoever was running it, because that is not the nature of the material, unless on the SLS side. But again, it comes down to who's running the. I As far as the actual properties of PA11, they're off the charts amazing. I mean, really, really great. Now, not as amazing as the material that you're going to get to see if you go to Rapid, which outshines PA11, PA12, and all other powder bed fusion materials every day of the week. It's one of the materials that we are bringing in house to advanced 3D. So, um, oh, there you go. So it was MJF. Didn't use the company again. Yes, 100%. And I guarantee you, they don't want to run it again either. Anybody that runs this stuff just doesn't like doing it. They do it because they've got customers to do it. And if it tells you anything, I don't want to do it. I don't want to bring it in house. I will let other people do that, just because it's more cost effective that way. So anyway, that was a great discussion. Thank you so much. And I look forward to sharing an alternative to PA11, PA12 very, very soon. So thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, I am wide open. I love criticism, critique. I love discussions, as long as we can keep it amicable. I firmly understand I'm not an engineer. I'm literally just a guy from the mountains of North Carolina that likes 3D printing for prosthetics and orthotics. And so there's a lot of things I miss. And I'm not above saying that. So if you have anything that you want to share, let me know. Or if there's a contract manufacturer that just loves printing PA11, let me know in the comments too. I think other people should know it, because there's really not a lot of people um, doing that, because it's such a hassle. Anyway, hey, have a great rest of the day. It's Tuesday, and we will talk to you on the next live. Take care.